Shalom, all praise to YAHAWASHI, double honor to the apostles of GMS. This is Allah coming at you with another video. And in this video, I want to be focusing on the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 15, down to verse 18. Alright. But it's mainly going to be going to 15. But you know what? Let's get right to it. Philippians chapter 1, verse 15. Some indeed preach. Let's see if I can start up a little bit. That's good. First, Philippians 1:15. Some indeed preach YAHAWASHI, even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. Now, what does that mean? Some preach YAHAWASHI of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. Like the Apostle Paul has always said, and which I always say as well, hearing him say it, is that when you read the scriptures, you want to put yourself in the scriptures. You want to put yourself in that time period, so that you can understand, in other words, so that you can understand the context and what the scripture is about, so that you could put yourself, in that time period to fully understand, as if you were there when these things were being written, as if you were there when these things were taking place. So when the scripture says, some indeed preach YAHAWASHI, even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill, what does that mean? Let's go to envy real quick. Let's go to envy. Okay?
Strong's G 5355. Thanos.
Envy, for envy, prompted by envy. Envy is the feeling of displeasure produced by witnessing or hearing of the advantage or prosperity of others. The evil sense always attaches to this word. Okay? So when you read that scripture, you get a better understanding there. So it says, when you read that definition right there, so it says envy is the feeling of displeasure produced by witnessing or hearing of the advantage or prosperity of others. So who were those people that were teaching of envy and strife? The people who witnessed the prosperity of others. But this prosperity was what? The Apostle Paul, who taught the gospel and was bringing in the Israelite foreigners, telling them that you had to believe in YAHAWASHI, you had to have faith in him so that you could be saved. And people saw, they witnessed that the truth that the Apostle Paul was teaching, the gospel that he was teaching, it was growing. And the masses were coming in and listening to the message that the Apostle Paul was teaching. And you had many people that envied that. Okay? Go to word strife.
Strong's G 2054. Eris.
It says strife. I'm sorry, go ahead. Contention, strife, wrangling. Strife, quarrel, especially rivalry, contention, wrangling, as in the church of the church in Corinth. So when it says some indeed preach YAHAWASHI, even of envy and strife, they had witnessed the advantages, or they had witnessed. It said the advantages of others, right? Those that taught YAHAWASHI of envy and strife were those that saw that the Apostle Paul, when he was teaching the gospel, they saw how many people believed. They saw how the masses was being brought in, and they envied that. So when they taught YAHAWASHI, they taught YAHAWASHI of envy and strife. Remember, when the Apostle Paul was teaching of YAHAWASHI, he was telling that you had to have faith, that you weren't justified by the works of the law, but rather you were justified by the law of faith. You had to have faith in YAHAWASHI so that you would be saved. You had many people that saw that and they envied that. So when they taught YAHAWASHI, they taught YAHAWASHI of envy and strife. In other words, they were doing things like teaching of YAHAWASHI, but they were bringing in what? They were bringing in the law into it. Oh no, you got to be justified by the law though. As a matter of fact, how can I prove that? How can that be proven? How can I prove that through the spirit of YAHAWASHI? Galatians 1:6, I marvel or amazed, as the Apostle Paul is saying, that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of YAHAWASHI into another gospel, which is not another. So it wasn't a whole nother book. It wasn't a whole nother gospel. It was still teaching of YAHAWASHI, but they was being called into another gospel because the gospel was being perverted. How was it being perverted? Which is not another, but there were some that trouble you and will pervert the gospel of YAHAWASHI. So it tells you that the gospel was being perverted, but he still didn't go in depth to how it was being perverted. Let's go another scripture. Galatians chapter 2 verse 4. And that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privately to spy out our liberty which you have in YAHAWASHI. Look at that word liberty real quick.
Strong's G 3922. Paraiserchamai.
Paraserkomai. To come in secretly or by stealth, or creep, or steal in, to enter in addition, come in besides. So what it means is to come in secretly or by stealth, or creep, or steal in. So when it says they came out, what words I looked at? Privately, it means to creep in, right? And you got the word liberty.
Strong's G 1657. Eleutheria.
Eleuteria. Liberty, or to do or to omit things having no relationship to salvation. Fancy liberty, license, the liberty to do as one pleases. True liberty is living as we should not. True liberty is living as we should, not as we please. It says, we go a little further more. It gives you an example in Galatians 5:1. I'm jumping down. It says, margin for freedom gives perhaps the preferable meaning, i.e., not to bring us into another form of bondage did Yahawashi liberate us from that which we were born, but in order to make us free from bondage. So when it says to spy our liberties, in other words, when Yahawashi was being taught, when Yahawashi came on the scene, we were justified through faith. We had to believe in him to receive salvation. We were not justified by the law, but rather we were justified through faith. So that was that liberty or freedom. We were set free from bondage. We were set free from the bondage of the law, no longer being justified by it. No longer being justified by it. So they came in privately or secretly, or creeped in or steal in to spy out our liberties, to spy out the liberties that we had in Yahawashi. Because when Yahawashi came on the scene, we were justified through faith, not by the law. He gave us liberty or set us free from the bondage of the law. So you saw people that saw that. You have people that saw that, and guess what? It says that they might bring us into bondage. Bring us into bondage how? Bring us into bondage by what? Saying that you had to keep the law to be saved. See that? Got a word to spy out real quick. Katascopeo.
Strong's G 2684. Katascopeo.
Yep. To inspect, view closely in order to spy out and plot against. See that? To view closely. Spy out, search out with the view to overthrowing is used in Galatians 2:4. So let's go back to Philippians. So back in Philippians 1:15, it says, some indeed preach Yahawashi even of envy and strife. Those are the ones that were preaching Yahawashi of envy and strife. They saw that the Apostle Paul was teaching the Israelite foreigners that they were justified through faith in Yahawashi, not justified by the law. You had people that saw that, so they in turn went and they said, well, no. They went and brought the Mosaic law into it. So they were teaching not another gospel, but they were perverting the gospel, saying that you have to be justified by the works of the law. That's why when you go to Galatians, the 2nd chapter and the 4th verse, the Apostle Paul said, false brethren brought in unawares to spy out our liberties in Yahawashi, to bring us again into bondage. Matter of fact, I don't think I went to that word bondage. Let me go there real quick. This is back in Galatians 2:4. Got that word bondage real quick. See if we get any insight on that.
Strong's G 2615. Katadulao.
Katadulao. It says to bring into bondage, enslave to oneself, bring into bondage to oneself, to bring into bondage. But we understand, those of us that understand the scriptures, we know what that's referencing, being bondage to the law. Okay? So back in Philippians 1:15, some indeed preach Yahawashi even of envy and strife, and those were those guys teaching Yahawashi of envy and of strife. They brought about contention. They saw that the Apostle Paul was teaching the faith of Yahawashi. They saw how the masses was coming in. They taught out of envy, they taught out of strife. It brought forth contention. And they in turn went and used the gospel and taught falsehoods. And some also of goodwill. That's obviously talking about the Apostle Paul and other people that Yahawashi used to preach the gospel. The one preached Yahawashi of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bonds. So those are the ones teaching, preaching Yahawashi of contention. Those ones that taught of Yahawashi and brought in the Mosaic law into it. Still putting out that you have to be justified by the law, but the Apostle Paul went against, cut all of that in the book of Galatians. He proved that wrong. You're not justified by the works of the law, but rather through faith. Okay? Not sincerely. They weren't sincere. Supposed to add affliction to my bond. So they added even more affliction. So now the Apostle Paul went and taught the truth. And then you had these guys that crept in unawares, started teaching falsehood. So now the Apostle Paul, he's afflicted by that. Now you got to come back and clean up their shoddy work. Now you got to go and bring this information out to them again. He went and he taught the truth. People came and taught falsehood. So now Paul got to come back and he got to do it again now, adding more affliction, seeking to deter those who had the faith into another direction, seeking to separate those people from the faith of YAHAWASHI by teaching falsehoods. Okay? It says, supposing to add affliction to my bonds, but the other of love. And that happens even now. You know, you got these other camps that go out there and teach these wayward doctrines, teach these falsehoods. And guess what? The apostles, the elders, ourselves, you got to go back and do videos to cut all of that. And that happens every now and then. Somebody come in teaching something. All right, they going around teaching that the 12 tribe sign, not the real 12 tribe sign. Then you got to go and do videos breaking down the 12 tribe sign again. Or they going around teaching that you justified by the law. So now you got to go into that again. Teaching that we're not justified by the works of the law, but rather through faith. That don't mean you don't got to keep the law. You do. But being justified through faith, being under the grace of YAHAWASHI, if we offend, guess what? We can be forgiven. That's where the grace of YAHAWASHI comes. The grace of YAHAWASHI, the mercy comes in. But the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. Which, there you go. The who was teaching of love, the Apostle Paul, and those other people that YAHAWASHI used to teach the gospel. And the Apostle Paul said he was set for the defense of the gospel. That's what he's supposed to do. Defend the gospel. What then? Notwithstanding, every way, whether in pretense or in truth. We got the word pretense.
Strong's G 4392. Prophecies.
Prophecies. When you read that, says Philippians 1:18 says color. It says in Acts 27:30, it says it signifies the assuming of something so as to disguise one's real motives. And you go here, it says a pretext, alleged reason, pretended cause. See, show under color as though they would do something in pretense, ostensibly. So it basically means to hide your true motives. So they were teaching YAHAWASHI in pretense. They were teaching YAHAWASHI to what? Hide their true motives. Teaching YAHAWASHI about hiding their true motives. Oh, we're going to give you the gospel. No, really, we're going to use this teaching of YAHAWASHI to tell them that, oh, no, we still justified by the works of the law. That's what the Apostle Paul had to say what he said in Galatians, the 2nd chapter, 3rd chapter. He had to go into the whole thing about the son of the bond, the child of the bondwoman and the free woman. He had to go into all of that. Okay? Look at that word color real quick. And this is that word color, C-O-L-O-U-R, on Etam Online. And then you see it says color, spelled the way it's normally spelled. When you go down right here, it says from circa 1300. As a reason or argument advanced by way of justifying, explaining, or excusing an action. Hence, specious reason or argument, that which hides the real character of something. There you go. See, it was hiding their real character. Like to show your true colors. And even said it right there from circa 1300. As distinctive mark of identification, as a badge or insignia of or livery, later of a prize fighter, horse rider, etc. Originally in reference to a coat of arms, hence figurative sense, as in to show one's true colors, reveal one's opinions or intentions, compare colors. So let's go back. So back in Philippians 1:15, so it says color. The word pretense, a pretext, alleged reason, pretended cause, show under color as though they would do something in pretense ostensibly. But in this sense, in this scripture, it's talking about to hide one's true motives. Okay? and says under color as though they would do something. So it gives you main definitions, but we know what it applies to in the scripture when we went to Vine's expository dictionary. It signifies the assuming of something so as to disguise one's real motives. Now let's go back. Philippians 1:18. What then, notwithstanding every way, whether in pretense or in truth, or in other words, sincerity, Yahushua is preached. So whether you preaching Yahushua to hide your true motives, or whether you're preaching Yahushua in sincerity, preaching Yahushua in sincerity, he's still being preached. And I therein do rejoice, yea, and will rejoice. An example of that is right here. 2 Corinthians 3:8. For we can do nothing against the truth before the truth. So whether somebody teaching falsehood or teaching the truth, you can't do anything against the truth, only before the truth. Because you'll go around teaching falsehoods and attempt to mislead people. But then the Most High has those that's teaching the truth in sincerity that'll go and wake them same people up. And in turn, those teaching falsehoods will be condemned. So the scripture tells you that the deceived and the deceiver are his. So the Most High is controlling them. And the Apostle Paul, like he said, and he rejoices. We'll go back to that. Philippians 1:18. But then notwithstanding every way whether in pretense or in truth, Yahushua has preached, and I therein do rejoice, yea, and will rejoice. Why? For I know that this shall turn to my salvation through your prayer, and the supply of the Spirit of Yahushua. So he knows it's still going to be to his benefit, teaching his word. You know, he know him teaching his truth and sincerity. He's going to rejoice because he knows it's going to lead to his salvation. So with that, I'm gonna close. I'm gonna say all praise to YAHAWASHI, double line to the Apostle GMS. I hope you learned something. Shalom.